Okay, friends, we'll go ahead and start with reciting Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who like to uh, join in that. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday night Sutta studies, or Sutta class. And this week we're sort of shifting gears from the last about 2 months or so. The last 2 months we were going over the insight knowledges and all the purification, the 7 stages of purification, and the insight knowledges, which was covering the deepest aspects of vipassana meditation leading up to the realization. Now we're shifting gears this week, and I hope that you all have gotten the Ratana Sutta. And actually we're going to be I'm going to put on the sutta on the shared screen so that you can read it, because I'm going to be reading some of it as well. What is that picture? This one. Have patience, technical difficulties.
Go on the top, select the tab which is showing Ratana Sutta.
Showing what?
Ratana Sutta tab. The tab on the top.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the Ratana Sutta, you can see there. I trust everybody can see, because all your faces and names have disappeared from my screen. So this is called the Jewel's Discourse, and actually it's about the qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And we've, like, the 3 refuges, so we've just taken the 3 refuges. And so this sutta is actually talking about the qualities of these 3 refuges, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha in verse. But there's a history behind this sutta. And so you can read it there in the translator's introduction, that there was Vesali is one of the towns where in the center of where the Buddha used to live and teach in northern India. And in this town, it was afflicted by a famine, and many people had died there. And due to all these decaying corpses, because a lot of the people who died were poor people, so they couldn't maybe afford, their families couldn't afford, and usually they cremated, but wood costs a lot of money, or hiring people to chop down wood and to burn the bodies. So poor people who didn't have much recourse, some of those bodies may have laid out a while, decaying. And that attracted the evil spirits, or ogres, what they call ogres, or ghosts that tend to like feed on corpses. And they haunted the city, and causing a lot of problems for people. And then this was followed by a pestilence. Probably all those decaying corpses were attracting, insects and bugs of so many kinds, and they're probably hatching their eggs in these decaying corpses, and so that there was causing a lot of people grief there. So those three things: the famine, and then what is called the non-human beings that were disturbing people, and pestilence. So they sought out the help of the Buddha, and you can see there that the Buddha had Venerable Ananda. They all went from Rajagir to Vesali, which is probably a few days walking at least, maybe longer. But the Buddha then gave this discourse on the Ratana Sutta. And it says that with the arrival of the Buddha, there were torrential rains which swept away the putrefying corpses, and the atmosphere became more purified. And then the Buddha delivered this Ratana Sutta to Ananda and told Ananda how he should tour through the city with people reciting this discourse as a marker of protection to the people of Vesali. So the Ananda, followed those instructions, and he sprinkled water from the Buddha's own alms bowl on different places in the city or around the city. And that custom, that ritual is also followed today in Buddhist countries, especially for new houses. When people buy a new house, they have monks come and recite the Ratana Sutta, some other suttas, and the string, the pirit string is held by the people and attached to a bowl of water. And then the monk takes that bowl of water with a little brush and walks around the house sprinkling water. And so it stems, that ritual that's even still done today in Buddhist countries, was started back at the time of the Buddha. So anyway, they walked around the city, and then those evil spirits and so on gradually dispersed, and the city then became peaceful again. So this is how the tradition of Pirit started. So the Ratana Sutta is one of the three, what are called the Paritas. There's three main ones, and there's a couple of other Parita Suttas, what are called the verses of protection. And even the Metta Sutta is also one of them, and the Mahamangala Sutta, and the Mahajayamangala Sutta. But this Ratana Sutta, apart from being a protective verse, it explains very nicely these qualities of the Buddha, and that arouses faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha by contemplating these qualities. And there's some other qualities too, qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. These are actually types of meditation called Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, and Sanghanusati. People can contemplate these qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and get the inspiration. And they can actually, even by contemplating with discursive thinking, they can actually attain very deep states of concentration as well, or at least access concentration, and experience a lot of joy. So now we're going to go through these verses. Now, the Buddha, as he gave this sutta, so all these people were waiting for the Buddha to come to this big hall, and the Buddha recited this Ratana Sutta to the gathering. And so in the first verse, whatever beings are assembled here, whether terrestrial or celestial, may they all have peace of mind. May they listen attentively to these words. So the Buddha is this kind of an opening statement. So terrestrial beings, of course, are the human beings or other animals that are living on the earth, and the celestial ones, or even devas. Devas and other beings, who live in other realms, also could hear the Buddha in many instances. So the Buddha was preaching to both these celestial beings and earthbound beings. So he says, listen closely, may you all radiate loving kindness to those human beings who by day and night bring offerings to you. Therefore, protect them with diligence. Now, it's also a custom in the Buddhist countries, especially in Thailand and Burma and into Sri Lanka, that people make offerings to these spirits, like tree spirits and other devas. They have shrines around the country dedicated towards certain devas and other beings. And in Thailand, especially, I know they have people have a little place, a little what they call spirit house in their yard, and they offer food at these spirit houses, believing that if they pacify or give offerings to these spirits may somehow kind of protect them. Now, of course, that's a little bit controversial. Some people may or may not believe that can help, but people in the Buddhist countries and other Asian countries, even in Hinduism, they have a lot of that too, people offering offerings to these various gods and so on. So I know most Westerners, they have a little bit of skeptical about maybe some of that. But so even if you don't believe that can happen, that these other spirits and beings can actually help protect you, I mean, you never know, right? We can get all the help we need. But apart from that, these qualities now that the Buddha is going to recite, these themselves are worth reciting, just for the sake of reflecting on the qualities. So he's saying, whatever treasure there be here or in the other worlds, whatever precious jewels they are in the heavenly worlds, there is none comparable to the Buddha, the perfect one. The precious jewel is the Buddha. By this assertion of truth, by this statement of truth, may there be happiness. So again, the Buddha is one of the three jewels. So the Tiratana or the three jewels are the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And the reason they're called jewels is because when a person, takes refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and actually practices the Dhamma, then that means they're taking refuge. They're knowing that only the Buddha, and especially the Dhamma, by practicing Dhamma and attaining the stages of of liberation and by purifying one's karma, that is what's really going to protect one, not so much giving offerings to disembodied spirits and things we may not even be able to see or believe in, but the merit comes in through having faith in the Buddha. And when we have faith in the Buddha as really being enlightened, then we'll practice his Dhamma. But a lot of people, of course, in nowadays, especially Western people, they may practice the Dhamma, and some of them may or may not have, have gone for refuge to the Buddha. They can still practice meditation to a certain extent and practice the Dhamma and maybe get some benefit. But when you take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, then you're really making a commitment to the practice. But the Buddha himself said that whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma. So really the Buddha is not separate from the Dhamma. So whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma, and whoever sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. This is a very well-known statement that the Buddha himself gave. And there was a story where there was a sick monk who thought he was going to die soon. And so he asked the other monks, please go and tell the Buddha, I want to see him one last time before I die. I want to lay eyes on his body. And so the Buddha, out of compassion, went to this monk. And when the Buddha came into the monk's room, he struggled to kind of sit up, and he wanted to sit up and he wanted to pay homage to the Buddha. But the Buddha, of course, saw he was struggling. He says, enough, monk. Well, what do you want to look at this body for? Don't trouble yourself with wanting to see this body. And that's when he said, whoever sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. And whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma. So that's a very famous incident in the time of the Buddha, and a very important thing to remember. That you don't see the Buddha just by looking at a Buddha image. You really see the Buddha in a deeper sense by practicing the Dhamma. So it's called a precious jewel because when you take refuge in the Buddha, refuge in the truth, then that cannot be stolen away from you. Gems can be stolen. Thieves can steal your jewels. They come in and steal your jewelry in your house or other places, or they can be otherwise somehow destroyed. But the faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha cannot be destroyed, especially for people who attain the stages of Sotapanna and above. So that's the first verse, is the Buddha is that precious jewel. And then the next verse, the cessation, the detachment, the deathless state, the Nibbana supreme. That's what the Buddha had realized. So there's nothing comparable to that Dhamma of Nibbana, the deathless state. This precious jewel is in the Dhamma. And by this truth, may there be happiness. So again, that's reiterating that the Buddha had realized Nibbana, fully realized Nibbana, and that is the ultimate realization of the Dhamma. That's the pure Dhamma, is the Nibbana. That means the liberation from greed, hatred, and delusion. And so just by contemplating that, and especially for those who meditate, and when you start to, as you practice the sila, dana, sila, bhavana, and you start to see how your life starts to gradually change with less fear, worry, anxiety, and not so greedy, and having more kindness and compassion, all these aspects of the Dhamma, then you get tremendous joy from that when you actually see that you can change yourself through the practice of Dhamma. So you get a lot of joy from that. So that's also why it's called the precious jewel of the Dhamma, because all those stages of happiness are available when you start practicing the Dhamma, the 3 levels of happiness. So these 3 levels of happiness The first level is the happiness of just the mundane life, and being the happiness that's free from guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. So when you practice the Dhamma, you practice the precepts, and you overcome or gradually eliminate guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. And so that's a mundane kind of happiness. It's just the happiness of living a calm, peaceful life, not having enemies and so on, because you haven't hurt anybody else. So you get a joy from that. But then when you start practicing meditation, that joy helps you to, when you actually start practicing meditation, concentration, you start getting the higher joy of those meditation states. So the joy of, like the first jhana, the joy and happiness that comes from attaining the first jhana, the second jhana, and the more refined states of happiness that come from meditation. And then there's the happiness that comes from the ending of the defilements, the happiness that comes from attaining the stages of entering the stream, once returning, never returning, in the state of the Arahant. So these are the kind of happiness. By this truth, may there be happiness. So, and all of these things can be reached by beings if they follow the Dhamma. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next verse. The Supreme Buddha extolled the path of purity, the Noble Eightfold Path, which brings concentration, because the seventh and eighth steps of the Eightfold Path are mindfulness and concentration, which means attaining the four jhanas too. And there's nothing comparable to reaching those levels of concentration. So these are just another way of, one of the qualities of the Dhamma is the states of concentration that we can reach by practicing the Dhamma. And so by this truth, may there be happiness. Now, the next verse, again, if you have any questions or any of these things as we're going along, you can write them down as questions in the chat room. So the next verse, the 8 persons extolled by virtuous persons are the 4 pairs. That means they're the disciples of the Buddha, are the 4 pairs of persons and the 8 kinds of individuals. That's another definition that's given as pertaining to the Sangha. Now, the Sangha is not necessarily only monks and nuns. The lay Sangha, lay persons can also attain the states, can practice the Dhamma, they can attain jhanas, they can attain, at least the first 3 stages of enlightenment, even as a lay person. And in the sutras, we read so many different lay people, followers of the Buddha, had reached, could attain jhana and mastered meditation and attained the first 3 stages of enlightenment while lay persons. So they're included as disciples of the Buddha, worthy of offerings and hospitality. So the precious jewel of the Sangha. Now, in modern days, at least in Buddhist countries, if you talk about the Sangha, they're normally referring to the ordained Sangha of, monks and nuns. But, in this definition of the Arya Sangha, it also can include lay persons if they've reached those states of entering the stream and so on. So this precious jewel is in the Sangha, to have persons that actually have reached these higher levels, persons who've reached deep levels of concentration, people who especially have entered the path and realized those stages of liberation. It's the precious jewel because they're the ones that we can get guidance from, that we go for inspiration. And just by thinking about like the great disciples of the Buddha who attained mastery of all these things, and Venerable of Sariputta and Moggallana and Ananda and so many other disciples, you can actually use them as a form of reflection and meditation if you know about their lives and so on, and get a lot of happiness from that. So that's the precious jewel of the Sangha. So in these few verses, each one was the precious jewel of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Now the rest of these are repeating different aspects of that. So again, the Sangha is those the four pairs of persons. That means the one who's entered the stream on the path of stream entry, and one who's enjoying the fruits. And then there's one who's on the path of once returning, and then the one who is enjoying the fruit of once returning. The one who is on the path of non-returning, and one who is enjoying the fruit of the non-returning. And then one who is on the path of the arahantship, and one who is enjoying the fruit of the arahantship. And I mentioned this briefly, I think, in last week when I was talking about the purification by knowledge and vision, and gave the simile of the person who uses a rope to swing across a river to reach the other side, and then he releases the rope and falls to the ground. When his feet hit the ground, he's a little bit unsteady because he might have fallen from some height. And it gets him, he has to steady himself a little bit and kind of get his bearings and realize, oh my gosh, I've attained enlightenment. And then gets used to that new level of consciousness. And then that's called the fruition, when he's enjoying the fruit of that, has come down from that initial euphoria of that realization. Anyway, there's different opinions, different scholars may have different ideas about these paths and fruits. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that as the 8 kind of persons, because that's usually a question people bring up. What are the 4 pairs of persons, 8 kind of individuals? So briefly, it's that. Okay. So this verse 7, with a steadfast mind, applying themselves well in the teachings of the Buddha, free of defilements, they've attained to that arahantship. So here he's talking about the last stage, whereas in verse 6, they're talking about people on any of those 4 levels. But here in verse 7, he's talking about the ones who've actually attained the last stage of arahantship, who've encountered the deathless state. They enjoy the peace of Nibbana freely obtained. So in that precious jewel is the Sangha, the ones who've attained the very penultimate of liberation. So by this truth, may there be happiness. Now, a lot of people think nowadays that, even attaining these 4 stages of enlightenment may not be possible, but, that's would be considered a wrong view. It may not be that easy, but if a person practices the Dhamma, the Buddha said that wherever there's the Eightfold Path and wherever people are practicing diligently, these 4 stages can be attained. Now in verse 8, as a post deeply planted in the earth stands unshaken by the winds from the 4 directions, so too I declare is the person who understands with wisdom. That means, again, he's talking about the Arahant, who cannot be shaken by the worldly winds of pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, or fame or ill repute. These are called the 8 worldly winds, actually. Those opposites of pleasure and pain, gain and loss. praise and blame, and the fame and ill repute, because you can see how people's lives can be changed very quickly by that. But the people who, people who've attained those higher stages of enlightenment, they become, like this, like a post deeply planted in the ground, unshaken by impermanence and the flows of impermanence. So that is found in the Sangha. And then this next verse, see, this is explaining different aspects of what some of these things we've been talking about. Those who realize the noble truths, well taught by him, of deep wisdom, the Buddha, even though they may be exceedingly heedless, they will not take an eighth existence. That means they will, at the most, they would come back to rebirth 7 times before attaining the final stage of the arahantship. Now, this is referring to the Sotapanna. So the Sotapanna has realized the Four Noble Truths, but he still has, his mind is still not totally purified. So that attainment of the stream entry, it is said that even if they were very negligent, that means for some reason they kind of didn't practice very much after that. Maybe they got complacent and they thought, oh, this attainment of stream entry, that's enough for me. But, they wouldn't commit any of those heinous crimes, or as we will see in the next verses. So we're going to go ahead on to the next verse because that explains some of this. So these are what in verse 8, number 10. With gaining of the insight, he abandons the 3 fetters of self-illusion, attachment to meaningless rites and rituals, and any doubts. So these are the 3 fetters that are overcome with the path of stream entry. And we went over these in our last meeting together, the 10 fetters and the 4 stages. So I hope you can remember some of that from the last week. So this is Sotapannas. They're freed from the 4 states of woe. That means they've purified their karma to such an extent that they wouldn't be reborn as an animal or as a hungry ghost or as the warring demons or in the hells. So I said that somebody attains that first stage and just reduces those 3 fetters alone, because they wouldn't be reborn in those states. That means their karma has somehow been, the seeds of a lot of their karma have been kind of purified or wiped out, attenuated by attaining that state of entering the stream. And they would not take an 8th existence. That means they could be reborn up to 7 times because they still have 7 fetters to go overcome. So they still have to overcome greed and hatred by attaining the 2nd stage. And then the 2nd and 3rd stages, and then the 5, I'm not going to go over them because I already talked about them last week. So anyway, the precious jewel is in this Sangha. So they're talking about, a couple verses dedicated to the Sotapanna, because the Sotapanna, even though the higher stages may not be attainable by a lot of people, the state of a Sotapanna definitely can, if a person practices, it definitely can be reached. And I know there's a lot of people, even lay people, and monks and nuns who attained the state of a Sotapanna. But some people say even that cannot be attained, but that's a kind of a cop-out. And if you believe that, you're not going to give 100% to the practice. But anyway, that's another side issue. So again, he's talking about in verse 11, talking about the Sotapanna. Again, any evil action they may still do, they're incapable of hiding it. So hiding, that's why the monks, whenever they do some unskillful action, break one of their Vinaya rules and so on, they expose it, or they confess it to fellow monks, because if you keep it inside of you, then it kind of eats at you without, you're hiding it from others, and it kind of acts as a poison. So there's a Sotapanna would not hide anything that he did. He would confess it and then make amends and determine not to do it again in the future. But that's pertaining to this these 8 kind of, in number 10, it says they're incapable of committing the 6 major wrongdoings. So this is down in the footnotes. I'm going to scroll down here to the notes. In number 7, the 6 kinds of heinous, we call translated as heinous crimes. That means crimes that you definitely will be reborn in hell or one of those states of misery. If you kill the mother or the father, murder an arahant, shedding the blood of the Buddha, causing a schism in the Sangha, and pernicious false beliefs. If a person has committed these deeds, they will be born in one of those 4 realms of misery. So the Sotapanna is incapable of committing any of these 6 kind of bad karmas, negative karmas. So that's why it is said that they're freed from those states of woe. That's why it's considered attaining the state of a Sotapanna is considered to be, should be the goal of any Buddhist, at least going that far in this life. So now in verse number 12, as the woodland grows through the early heat of the summer, across with blooming flowers, so is the sublime Dhamma leading to Nibbana, which is taught by the Buddha. This precious jewel is the Buddha. Again, they're just going through different ways of, honoring the Buddha by, regarding the precious jewel of, and everywhere you look in the Dhamma, it soothes your mind, whether you're contemplating right view, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right, effort. In all those steps, the Eightfold Path, person finds happiness. That's why it's a, it's a precious jewel, the Dhamma. And then again, third, the peerless, excellent one, the Buddha, knower, giver, and bringer of the Noble Eightfold Path. He's the one that taught the Eightfold Path. He spent his whole life, 45 years, walking all over North India, teaching the Dhamma, and revealed the lamp of truth to so many hundreds and thousands of people. So many thousands of people attained arahantship and all the other the levels of the path that hadn't been taught before, didn't exist before the Buddha. It is said that before the Buddha came and taught the Dhamma, There were these other partial Dhammas, but none that leaded to the very highest experience of Nibbana. So that's why, that's the precious jewel of the Buddha. And then this last sort of verse, their past karma is spent. Their new karma no more arises. Now, when one attains this pertains to the Arahant. When a person attains Arahantship, they've gone beyond karma, so to speak. They no longer create good karma. They no longer create bad karma. Their karma is what is called without fruit. So it's called sort of a neutral karma. It doesn't give any seeds to rebirth, because even our good karma can cause rebirth in heaven realms, but that's not considered to be a good goal to look for, because even if you get reborn in these heaven realms, even these Brahma or lokas, through practicing arupa jhanas and so on, you have to fall from that and come back to be born again as a human being or some level before, in order to continue your stages of liberation. So anyway. So that's the meaning of their no new karma arises. Their minds doesn't create any future becoming. The 12 links of dependent origination that we've also talked about before, that is basically stopped. When you attain arahantship, that wheel of birth and death has stopped because the ego has been totally eliminated. Now, of course, some other places will try to deny that and say, have different opinions about that, but not going to get into those discussions here. But anyway, by that, by the asseveration of that truth, may there be happiness and joy. Now, a lot of people may hear this: their path karma is spent, their mind's not bound to future birth or becoming. The gem of rebirth has died. They have no more desire for real. People might hear that and say, "Well, that sounds negative." Yeah, I want to keep on living. I want to, go to the heaven world. I want to, come back again, have kids, and do a lot of things. So a lot of people still have that craving for life, and of course, that will cause them to be reborn. But the Arahant, who's sort of lived out that karma and exhausted all that, then they're the ones that reach that deathless state. So anyway, that finishes these qualities of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. And so then these, I think the Sakka, the Lord of the Devas, let me go back to these notes that we were looking at. That in the note number 9, the last 3 stanzas were recited by Sakka, who was the chief of the Devas. And he was listening to the sutta. And then, so he's saying, whatever beings are here assembled, terrestrial or celestial, let us salute the Buddha, honored by gods and men, may there be happiness. And then he repeats it for the Dhamma also. Let us salute the Dhamma, let us salute the Sangha, honored by gods and men, may there be happiness. So the fact of people just reciting this sutta, so this sutta actually is a very popular sutta in Buddhist countries, especially in Sri Lanka, because I lived there a long time, and almost at every dana ceremony, so many functions, whenever they go on a trip, they go on a trip or they do something, as I already mentioned, build a house or things like that, they recite the Ratana Sutta, and hoping that they'll, get protected by that. But again, I wouldn't put all your eggs in that basket. That really, it's only by practicing the Dhamma really that we can be 100% sure that we're going to be protected. So it's the Dhamma is really the protector. But because the the Buddha and the Dhamma are represent the Dhamma. The Buddha and the Sangha are people in the flesh that have actually actualized the Dhamma, being those stages of that we've already mentioned. Okay, so I just wanted to go over this sutta, and if you ever go to Buddhist temples, and then you may hear these suttas, you may remember the meaning of that. So, having gone over that, now you all have this attachment, and you can refer to it over and over again. And if you want to learn how to chant it in Pali, I think you can probably, somewhere on the internet, you can find the Pali version of this Ratana Sutta quite easily by Googling it. Okay, so let's see, I don't see any questions in the... Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this now and come back to the screen. And hope I haven't put anybody to sleep. But there's some people, some people who are kind of skeptical or, non-Buddhist, they may, well, I'm not interested in, hearing this kind of things, but, they just want to meditate. A lot of people say, I just want to meditate. I don't want to hear all this other stuff. But they're the ones that usually don't get too far in meditation. But anyway, so doesn't see there's any chats in the chat box. Okay, looks like there is some chat. Is that the first one? Is that the first one? Veronica? Would a stream enter always know he or she entered the stream? Well, if you die as a stream enter and you're reborn as a baby, it's not likely you're going to know you're a stream enter as a baby. But as you grow up, you'll naturally have affinity toward the Dhamma. And in most cases, probably you'd be attracted to the Dhamma, and you would have a good sila. That means you wouldn't be breaking any of the major kind of silas, especially those 6 ones that I've mentioned, but even as most likely you're not going to get caught up in killing, or at least you'd probably be following the 5 precepts kind of naturally. Now, we there's a lot of people in this world that naturally follow the 5 precepts, and they may not even be Buddhists, because other religions have this path of morality too. So, there are people who, may have a good sila, but, they might have wrong views. But usually somebody would be attracted to Dhamma, Sotapanna, at probably a fairly young age. And at least that would reawaken their those qualities, or there's understanding. But it's not likely, and I couldn't say at whatever age that may happen, that could be different for each people. Because even a once returner who only comes back for one time is a human being. Now, they would probably be able to remember much easier and quickly that they've reached those levels, because they would have very little desire or aversion in their mind.
Bhante, what I meant by this question is, suppose somebody attains stream entry in this life, not when they die. I mean, through the practice, would they necessarily recognize it as stream entry? Would they, suppose they go on a very long retreat and they work very hard?
Yes, the symbol of it is that you review and you've reached that level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because you've gone beyond doubts. Usually the criterion is that you've totally gone beyond any doubts about whether there's a self or a permanent self entity or a God that created this world by magic or something, and the doubts about the Buddha, the doubts about he was fully enlightened. Because when you have that powerful stream entry practice, it goes right to the very right to the very core of the unconscious mind and causes some definite changes. And those changes are the destruction of the three fetters, because you had that glimpse of the Dhamma and it's so powerful, you won't forget it. Now, it may not be in your mind. You haven't really attained Nibbana yet, though, and that's what this next question is here, too. It says, Bhante, is the Sotapanna same as attaining Nibbana? You had a glimpse of Nibbana, but it's not attaining Nibbana. When we say a person has attained Nibbana, then that refers to the Arahant level. But they have glimpses of the Nibbana. And they can get it again and again in meditation sometimes, but until they purify the rest of the defilements, then they're not experiencing it all the time. They're not in a permanent state of that awareness. But, they will know it. And there's a simile. I like to give this a little example. Let's say somebody had 4 50-pound bags of concrete, 2 on each shoulder. If you already carried a bag of concrete on your shoulder, you know how heavy it is. Even a 30-pound bag of concrete. So let's say you got 2 bags on each shoulder. That's the average person, the burden of suffering and, unhappiness and just other, confusion. Then let's say somebody pushes off one bag. Do you think that they would feel a little bit lighter? They would know it. Oh, it's a little bit lighter, right? Well, if you don't know, next time, go to Home Depot, buy 4 bags of concrete, put them on your shoulder, feel that weight, then push one off. Then you will definitely see, yes, it's lighter. So a Sotapanna, their mind will be that much lighter because it won't be having so much guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. That's the heaviness. That's what makes people's mind heavy. Guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. Looking over your shoulder. Who's going to find out? Who's going to find out? And, lied, steal, cheated, whatever. So that's the burden. Or just the unhappiness, confusion, depression. Look, people are suffering from all these mental states. And so anyway, that's, you will know that something happened, when you attain the state of a Sotapanna. And if that hasn't happened, then probably you haven't attained that state. Because there's a lot of people who could think they've reached that level, but then later on they realize, oh, they do have some doubts, or something else creeps up, and then they realize, oh, okay, I'm not. So anyway. Is the Sotapanna, oh, I already answered that one. So the Sotapanna state is not the same as attaining Nibbana. Or you could say you've attained a quarter of it, but it's not normally, we normally don't say that when a person is to attain Nibbana, it refers to the Arahant. So here's a comment. Some person who has attained stream entry may not care to make a big deal about it. That's true. You may not make a big deal about it. You keep it to yourself. And yeah, usually a person who's attained it won't go around saying, I've attained this or that, because they'd be modest. Their ego has been weakened to a certain extent because of that attainment. And so normally they're not going to go around broadcasting it, but they may confide in it if to their teacher or other people, or if they're asked, or so on, if they feel confident, and so on. So you may not know who is one or who is not one. Okay, so it looks like that's all of the questions in the chat box. So anyway, it's a hallmark of the Sotapanna also are they've gone beyond doubts in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and the unshakable faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Let's say a person has been a Buddhist, but maybe they thought they were a Buddhist, but maybe they hadn't attained this stream entry yet. So they could still have some doubts. And if a clever talking, I'm not going to mention names of other religions, but people that are missionaries and clever talkers about other religions, they could convince somebody that, to believe in somebody else. Now, a Sotapanna would never do that. He would never have any doubts or go to any other religion consciously, because they've overcome that. So if anybody has any inklings of that, that means they're not a Sotapanna. Anyway, this is the, this is the way it's normally considered. Okay, friends, so we're going to go ahead and now get ready to have our little session of some yoga stretches and then have our meditation period. Okay? So we'll see you back in a few minutes.
Just need to get that thing on the screen. You can change the camera. Turn it on. You can do the change. It's on also. We're going to turn it back. Select it. So maybe the map is showed up. Behind. Yeah, toward the back. That's good. That's it.
Okay, friends, so stand straight, relax the arms, hands at the sides, just gently close your eyes, just feel your feet pressing the floor. Just try to feel the height and weight of the body over the feet. Try to rest your attention behind the eyes. And then begin some deep, slow breathing, taking about 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. Then slowly breathe out, feeling the last bit of air go out of the lung. And the next in breath, just take a couple more deep breaths like that, thinking like this. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we combine this breathing with these movements. You can open the eyes and observe as I follow you, lead you through this. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back to look at the back of your hands, stretch upwards. On the out-breath, turn the hands down and touch the top of your head. Repeat it again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the top of the head. And once more, third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Try to bend back a little more. Now release your fingers, and on the out breath, arms back to the sides. And just relax, just close the eyes. Feel the feet pressing the floor. Feel the arms and hands at the sides, the clothing touching the skin. And just remember standing, the present moment of the body. Just let go of your thoughts. Let your thoughts come and go in the back of the awareness. Just keeping the sensation body in the front of the awareness. Okay, now on the next in breath, push up on your toes while raising the arms over the head in this way and stretch up, facing the hands toward each other. Stretch. Out breath, come back down. Use the breath to help lift up the body. In breath. Stretch. Out. In. Out. Relax, close the eyes. Try to feel the increased sensations, pulse of blood, or a heartbeat, or prickling sensations. With the sensations of the clothing against the skin. Just remember standing, standing. And next we'll do side bending, using both arms at a time. So on the in-breath, raise both arms up. And keep your fingers and arms straight, close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. And keep the arms and hands parallel to each other like railroad tracks. In-breath, lift up. Then to the left side, out-breath. Feel the stretch in the side. In-breath, up. Again to the right, out-breath. In, out. In. Once more to each side. In breath up. On the out breath, lower the arms. Just relax. Close the eyes and you just feel those increased body sensations, especially in your hands, arms. Just remember standing, standing, standing. We're going to just do one last simple exercise, the head turning from right to left. On an in-breath, turn your head to the right as far as you comfortably can. Look over your right shoulder. On the out-breath, turn 180 degrees back to the left. Look over the left shoulder. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae. Imagining them loosening up. In-breath back to the right. Out-breath left. In-breath right. Out-breath left. On the in-breath, let the head stop in the center. Just keep the eyes closed. Just feel the standing body. Try to feel those subtle vibrations of the life force. Present moment awareness, grounded in the body. Okay, so let's come back to our sitting spots. Get ready for the sitting meditation. Okay, friends, so try to sit straight. So relax the shoulders. Just feel focus your attention down. Feel where the buttocks and feet press the floor underneath. First of all, just try to feel the buttocks pressing the seat. And feel the way the legs are bent underneath, the feet underneath, where they're crossed, or where their feet touch the floor, where they cross each other. Just feel those sensations. Just feel that solid contact with the floor. And just mentally remember sitting, sitting. Now the body is sitting. Let the awareness move up to feel your hands and fingers. Feel the outlines of your thumbs or other fingers. Feel the subtle sensations. And try to feel the natural inward curve of the lower spine. If you don't feel that, kind of just arch your lower spine in a bit. That natural inward curve of the lower spine helps to support the weight of the upper body. And kind of imagine the straight spine in the middle of your back. And feel the head balanced on top of the spinal column. Feel your lips touching together. Try to feel the tongue laying in the mouth. Now feel the eyes and the sockets. Sort of rest your attention on the eyes. Natural concentration point. Sort of feel those subtle sensations in the eyes. Little eye movements, or the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. It's like turning on the inner camera, inner webcam. Actually, kind of just watch your eyes sitting there. Not as a visual image, but just as a sensation. From that point behind the eyes, you can feel the outline of your face, feel sensations in other parts of your face. And again, from there, let the awareness kind of expand a little bit down and outward to feel the outline of the sitting body. Just by resting the attention behind the eyes, it should kind of like light up the outline of the sitting body. Again, as like a silhouette. Feel sensations from the feet, hands, buttocks, chest, head. Just try to hold that feeling of the body in the mind's eye. It's called the third eye, the mind's eye. Ability to feel the inner sensation. And just remember sitting, sitting, sitting. And again, begin some deep, slow breathing to feel the more dynamic expanding and contracting of the breathing within that sitting posture. After breathing in, holding in the breath for 2 seconds, feel the pause. And feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. Feeling the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just continue to take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, oxygenating the sitting body. Just cultivating this mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10. Try to cultivate a more continuous concentration on the breathing. So with the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Feel the brief pause. With the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feeling the last bit of air go out of the lung. The next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. out 4, in 5, out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. But continue to feel it. Keep the mind focused in that abdominal, stomach, chest area. Feel the subtler expanding and contracting movement. It's like looking down through a microscope. Just focus the attention to those expanding and contracting sensations. And just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. Know it by feeling it. And the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the body. Breathing is going on within the larger body. At the end of the out breath also, feel the body grounded to the floor. Remember, sitting. Just keep remembering, breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Just over and over and over again. Just gradually centering, grounding the mind and the breathing body. In, sitting. Out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Just letting go of your thoughts. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep feeling the breathing body in the front of the awareness. Just as though you would point a handheld camera at an object and film it, just point your mind at the breathing body. Just breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Just turning up the power of the mental microscope. Try to notice the 4 phases of each breath. The expanding in-breath and the brief pause. The contracting out breath and the brief pause. So many little sensations. The clothing rubbing against the skin of the abdomen, the rib cage, your chest. Or any other sensations of the breath. And try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you feel it more in the abdomen, sometimes you feel it more in the chest. It's always changing. Just have the attitude of a scientist sitting in the laboratory, looking down through the microscope, observing and specimen. Yes, each breath is different. So many different sensations. And again, be alert for thoughts trying to sneak into the mind. Comparisons, judgment, wanting. Just let them come and go in the back of the mind. It's all just thinking. Just let your thoughts go through the back of the mind like ticker tape announcements going across your computer screen. Just stay connected with the breathing. In, sitting. out, out, sitting. It's the ongoing, continuous connection with the present moment, the natural present moment awareness. It's always there, just beneath our active mind. As the mind settles down, becomes more relaxed and calm, you can notice other sensations coming and going in the body, around or through the breathing awareness, the prickling sensations, itching, body movement. They just arise and vanish. With each out breath, just allowing the awareness to relax more and more to the present moment. Just letting go of the past, letting go of the future. Just feeling that undulating rhythm of expanding and contracting. Just those other subtle sensations coming and going. Touch of clothing against the skin. Subtle pulse of blood or heartbeat. If you have too many thoughts, or if the mind is dull, come back and do some deep, slow breathing, re-energize the bloodstream to help get awake in the body. Or if you like, you can try counting your breaths from 1 to 10 by yourself. It helps you to concentrate, stay alert. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Pleasure or pain come and go. Thoughts, urges, ideas come and go. Sounds come and go. These are all just a continuous flow and flux of the 5 aggregates, the body and mind. Through this present moment awareness. Just beneath all of that change, flux, or mental confusion or chaos, is the parallel dimension of the now. Of present moment awareness, a natural state of consciousness. By maintaining that connection to the breathing or other internal sensations, that's the lifeline, the anchor to that present moment awareness. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atane bindati dukkhe esamango visuddhiya dukkha pata ca nidukkha bhayapata ca nibbaya soka pata ca nisoka hontu sabbi pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to pass away. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha, the precious jewel of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. If you like, you can join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. Do the chanting on a long out breath. Sadhu. Now place your hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep, slow breath. You're breathing in, stretch the head back and pull the hands against your knees to arch the lower spine. And lift the head up on an in-breath, and on the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebra. And lift up the head level on an in-breath. And relax on the out-breath. Can you turn that one light on? Not all of them. So So friends, this brings our evening Dhamma discussion and meditation to an end, and I hope you're able to have some moments of peaceful awareness and insights. It's only when you have those, develop mindfulness and concentration, where you're really able to get in contact with the present moment, vibration, awareness, to overcome all your wandering thoughts, overcome sleepiness. The mind becomes clear and awake. That's when you really start to appreciate the jewel of the Dhamma, which is that present moment awareness. It's always there, just underneath your active mind. You just know how to tune into it. The breathing body is the way we tune into that. It's a natural connection. Okay, friends, so anyway, hope you have a peaceful night's sleep, and see you next week, perhaps. I'll send out in the next mailing topic we might go over next week, the sutta. Okay, so remember, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away, and Namo Buddhaya. Especially in this festive season, have to be, not to get too much caught up, and enjoy the holiday season, but with mindfulness.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're all very welcome.
Rapinan panitan, itena sachena savati hotu.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
You're all welcome.
Have a good night, Bhante. Thank you. Mahatera.
Good night, Marcia, Howard. Good night, everyone.
Well,
Good night, Marcia.
you have a great night too. Blessing.
Thank you.